Welcome to the third edition of the Technology Tools for Parents. I'm Kathy Hilby, the Technology Integrator for the School District of West Salem. Today we're going to look at a site from the Wisconsin Department of Justice. The website is protectkidsonline.wi.gov. Again, protectkidsonline.wi.gov. And they have a specific task force called the ICAC, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. And they have put together some resources that are helpful for parents. If I scroll down here a little bit, it talks about a podcast that's available. So if you're one who time is limited and you want to be able to listen to things while you're doing other tasks, you could subscribe to this podcast. Generally, they're 15 to 20 minutes in length, and they kind of talk about some things that they've seen, for example, apps, websites, and trends. In addition, if I scroll down on the page, they also have an email list. If you're more interested in something in writing that you can look over at your leisure, you can subscribe to their email newsletters as well. And finally, one of the bigger things they put together with the DPI is something called Interact. And I'm going to click on it over here on the left-hand side. So if I look at this, it's going to tell me a little bit more about this, but then this logo was actually a link to this specific website. So basically this is an e-course designed for parents and at times parents and students. So what it'll do is walk you through step by step, and as it says on here, some of the parts have audio, there might be some video, there might be some question and answer kinds of things. So basically the first section that you see on here is more about general information, how to get started, the purpose, things like that. And that goes fairly quickly. And then if I go down here to step 1, this is actually more designed for the parents. And what it has the parents do is search themselves online and then look at the privacy settings for their own social media accounts. So YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, those kinds of things, Instagram, and kind of ask them to look through how those settings are set up for themselves. And then it spends a little bit of time on strong passwords, location services that some of these apps use, and keeping software up to date. Keep in mind when we do update software in some of these apps, they sometimes go back to the default settings. So we may have set settings exactly like we want them, and then when an update comes through, that gets reverted back to the default, so we have to go back and set those again. Now, if I go to step 2 on here, step 2 is designed for the parent and the student to work together on this. I'm gauging a little bit more of this section as a middle school as opposed to a high school student. So you could sit side by side and work through this. And some of the things that it talks about here, some of the internet safety practices, and it looks at it from both the child and the parent perspective. And a lot of it is about what you're posting online. So I do have some video clips in here from NetSmarts as well. There'll be some questions that the parents answer and some that the student answers. So it's kind of fun to see how you may look at those from different perspectives. The final step on here is kind of the action part of this. So you have some information. So now what are you going to do with it? So it provides you some resources, again, some of them we've already talked about, like Common Sense Media, some of those kinds of things. Reporting, how to report things that you might see that are inappropriate. Basically, they talk about the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's tip line, and that's where they recommend that. And of course, if any child is in danger, then contacting the local law enforcement. And then the final part of this is designing some kind of a safety contract or pledge and having those conversations. And it was interesting too that they encouraged you to have your child come up with some of the rules and consequences rather than it coming down strictly from you on that part of that. Some of the topics they talk about for the safety contract are appropriate social media conduct, screen limits and time zones, privacy settings, what to do if inappropriate content is seen, and basically how are you going to hold each other accountable. It also gives some sample contracts. So the Department of Justice Internet Crimes Against Children website gives some good resources. And if you prefer, they do have a Facebook page you can follow as well. And then it will send out some of those things, like when they learn something new, they'll post it out here. And I believe they advertise their podcasts on here as well. Hope you find this useful.